Warning, this isn't a theory video or anything that's supposed to be a serious discussion of the lore of Deltarune. I just had this thought in the shower one day and I thought it was so absurd I had to make it a real thing and see if I was correct. Another thing, I know that Chris is non-binary in the game Deltarune.
Oh, the they them pronouns.
But the title rolls off the tongue better. It has two B words, bad boyfriend, buh, alliteration, repetition of sounds. You learn this in English poetry class. Anyways, why did I make this video? One day, while sitting down and reliving my Undertale phase by playing a neutral run for the 9th time, I thought to myself, Snowgrave is pretty weird. For context, Deltarune is the sequel to Undertale, and Deltarune has a secret route in it, which doesn't change the ending, it just changes what happens in the middle. Because according to Toby Fox, the guy who made both of them, in Deltarune, your choices do not matter, but apparently, others' choices do. The main focus of Chapter 2's mid-game is Noelle, our classmate who has no clue how she got here and believes this entire thing is a dream. In the normal route, we just progress through the story, character arc development, lesbian crushes, blah blah, whatnot. We don't kill any enemies there, because in most Toby Fox games, it's better to not kill any enemies. That's how you get the right route. We learned that from Undertale. And at the end, everything's fine. You go home and they're like, oh, there was that dream. It was all in the head. Wow! Noelle, as a character, is incredibly timid. She's shy. She doesn't stand up for herself, even though she wants to, because I think she's just like scared. And she has a crush on Susie, the pink, buff dragon girl. However, she's kind, and at the end of the game, she undergoes a character arc. She stands up for herself and doesn't allow herself to be controlled by Queen, who is the person who kidnaps her and wants to use her powers. That's a whole different relationship dynamic I could make into a different video, but I'm not going to focus on these two. I want to focus on Chris, the person you play as, and Noelle. Now, Chris is a character of their own, and I'm going to spoil some lore here of what we find out in Chapter 1, what we find out in Chapter 2, but it's important that you know this for when I continue the video. The game shows this to us by displaying that Chris is capable of their own choices once they rip the soul out of their chest and start acting crazy. The soul is essentially our way of controlling Chris, so when our soul enters them, that's when we can control them like a video game player, a video game character, or whatever. And once the soul exits Chris starts doing their own crazy shenanigans. We see this in the endings of the game, it's obvious. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to ignore that plot point entirely. I want to just talk about this route and what I found interesting about it when I looked at it through like different lenses. And please don't grab the pitchforks. Just for now, let's act as if Chris isn't being controlled and this is their actual their actual personality, their actual identity. All of this is on purpose. The first time Noelle realizes that her actions do mean something in the story is when she joins our party. We give her the chance to actually accept her proposition instead of shutting her up and just like casting her away to the side, which happens in Chapter 2's school section. Nothing major really happens here in terms of character growth, but it's the first step that we take as a person for her growth to begin. Instead of proceeding to the right, we go back, we backtrack and freeze every enemy we see on sight. Now the game kind of pushes you into this direction if you focus on the battle menu. There's an option called defend, which increases your defense for a turn and adds to your TP bar. Now I'm not going to talk about TP and all the small things about TP. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but essentially TP allows for you to perform special actions besides the normal attacks and acts that you do. And once you have Noelle in your party, you have a bunch of ice attacks that need TP to use, even though the game encourages you to act with the enemies, the non-violent option in the game. Another thing you can do is if you still want to use these violent options, using these ice spells and actually fighting, it then incentivizes you to say, okay, the enemy's pretty tired of fighting now, you can pacify them, which means you can like set them aside, they won't hurt you anymore. It's essentially something that happens. The game really wants you to not kill a lot of people, and most people are okay with it because you get the most story out of the game then that way. However, when you defend, the only spell that's available to Noelle at this point in time is Ice Shock, and you're going to use this For every fight now, this is your main form of attacking. Defend, ice shock, nothing else. You keep going to the beginning regardless of what Noelle tells you, and you keep freezing everyone you see. Then you interact with the door at the back of the garbage dump, which makes Noelle feel down, makes her feel nostalgic. Most people think this is a sort of reference to her sister, who people may think is like dead or something. I think like she's like I also think she's dead. That's part of the main route thing. I'm not gonna go deeper. I don't know if it goes further into what type of theory I'm cooking up here. Whatever. But for the Snowgrave route to lock itself in, you have to interact with this door, and then after you're done freezing all the enemies, and you've gone to the furthest back point of the game, you go back to where you found Noelle again, and this is where you proceed. Now, remember when I said that I looked through this route through different lenses? Okay, I'm gonna share these lenses with you, but I don't want you to judge me, okay? Alright, here we go. Deltarune's Snowgrave route is actually a depiction of an abusive relationship from start to end, with Chris being the dominating partner and Noelle being submissive because of the fact that she can't bring herself to say no to anyone, so she allows herself to be controlled by Chris, resulting in her state becoming worse by the end of this route, and all of this is symbolism for the cycle of an abusive relationship which still doesn't get broken at the end, with a slightly sad ending. Yeah, the whole first section where we take Noelle somewhere else and only use her attack is to me symbolic. Only using defend on ourselves and ordering Noelle to attack for us seems like how a bad partner uses their significant other for their dirty work and like nothing else. I could be wrong though. I've not been in an abusive relationship, but it's like it could happen. Right after this, however, when we get back on track, is where I think the Snowgrave route actually reminds me of an abusive relationship. This is the first puzzle of the game, and since Noelle is afraid of rats, you normally have to solve the puzzle so that the rats don't get in her way, so she can walk across. Like she's phobic. In this route, however, you brute force yourself into the exit trigger, while Noelle keeps begging you, please solve the puzzle, I'm scared of these rats, I'll do anything for you, I'll do your homework, I think she just mentions homework, honestly. But you don't actually do anything. You just tell her to proceed. Walk past the puzzle. I'm not doing it for you. I don't give a shit. You're gonna go through this because I told you to, and you're not gonna question me. Does that sound familiar? After this section, like before, we just keep freezing everyone we see. Nothing changes mostly. You keep forcing this young woman to become your personal ice maker with really big ice cubes. The scene after this, however, is much more disturbing and somewhat uncomfortable. So I'll just let it play out for you. These three choices in the room give you the opportunity to not continue with this route, to not continue with this bad behavior. But since we are the bad boyfriend, the bad partner, we pick the worst option out of all of them. Because we want our partner's life to be horrible. If we go on with analyzing the route as if it's the canon behavior of these characters, which is what I'm doing to keep this video unique to other video essays out there, here's what we get. The first choice we make, where we insist that Noelle will ride the Ferris wheel with us, is possessive behavior. Insisting that Noelle will only stay with us and do what we tell her to do. She can't do it. Woman, you can't do anything on your own. I'm gonna be there all the time. I don't trust you. That's what I got from it. The whole oh, you're doing something. You're doing it to me. You're doing it with me. No, me together. The next choice shows the shopkeeper doing what shopkeepers do, which is to try and sell his product by saying the most normal, basic, generic thing a shopkeeper will like assume. Come on, two old kids walking down, got a good old school night. Would you like some dating shoes? He implies that Noelle and Chris are on a date, and maybe Chris should buy this lovely lady some dating shoes. Which, holy shit, I think that adds an even deeper layer to this route, because that one line, Noelle responds saying, me and Chris have been friends, there's nothing deep between us, we've known each other for a long time, there can't be anything going on between us. Like, it really can't, it doesn't make sense. Like he knows all my secrets, he knows all. Where's something else? Huh? The possessive and controlling behaviors off the charts, breaking the ceiling. This surprises her, and when we walk away from the guy, because there seems to be no more further interaction, he stops us to say, well, if we all aren't dating, and if you're something else, would you like a ring? A freeze ring? I'm a good old shopkeeper. I'm a good marketer guy. Now this little guy starts to imply something even bigger, which is that if y'all won't buy the dating shoes, why don't you buy something that looks like y'all are engaged? Toby Fox definitely knew what he was doing with this one. It's obviously showing off the gradual signs of a bad partner with this route, and also turning one of the more innocent characters into a murdering machine against her will. This route makes it even more obvious that it's your fault, than that even Chris shows signs that they're not trying to follow your orders. Unfortunately, since you control the soul inside of them, they can't do anything about it. They literally just can't. They can't stop you because you're inside them. You can't stop someone when they're inside you. We find out that the freeze ring is just $1 above our current savings. We can't get it. God damn it, man. I really wanted that ring. It was gonna be a cute ring, honestly. Get it. Huh? We keep telling Noelle to get the ring, no matter what she has to do. And so after forcing her enough times, she does what she's been doing ever since she joined you. The command that you've repeated to her over and over and over. The first thing that you always tell her to do when you want to order her for something, she frees. Noelle actually blacks out during this, and she doesn't know what happened. But we can guess that the guy is probably missing or dead because we heard the freeze sound effect and he's nowhere to be found. Did he freeze and immediately like turn into dust and you can't see him? He just spread out over there? Who knows? Honestly, who knows? After this moment, we equip the freeze ring on Noelle and then go down to get stuck by another puzzle. Noelle offers to stay on one switch so that we can stay on the other, so it stays open. And after it's done, she thinks, well, she wanted to step off the switch and let Chris get hurt by the lasers. And she keeps telling herself, why did you think like that? That's horrible. You should not be thinking of Chris like that. You should not be thinking these violent thoughts. It's horrible. Of course, since we are the good boyfriend, we tell her it's completely natural. The murderous intent is fine. It's natural, you get it anyways. Whatever you've been doing, of course you're gonna feel like murdering people. It's the first solution that you've been given ever since you've joined this person. It's the first thing that you've been told is the way out of these problems. Freeze! Kill! The way Chris acts here, the possessive behavior in the Ferris wheel scene, the forceful acts when getting the ring, and the gaslighting before you continue forward, it's horrible! What? I'm rethinking it. Like, I'm thinking, like, when I was playing this route, like, I noticed this the first time. And replaying it, I'm like, oh, This hurts. This hurts like extra because I get it now. Damn, it's just bad. Damn. Now when people online, they say stuff like, I feel too uncomfortable to play this route myself because they feel like they're controlling Noelle. People are obviously emotionally attached to characters of a good game. When you have good writing and you have a good character, of course people are gonna get like emotionally attached to it. You can't be that stupid. So people say they can't play it because it just hurts them too much to see a character that they love being corrupted to such a degree. So they watch people play it instead, so that they don't have like the sins of their behaviors on them. Because like I said, what's on me? Because like I said, the actual thing that's happening in this game, the actual story, is the meta story. That you are the one at fault because you're controlling Chris. And it's your fault because Chris can't stop himself. Chris can't stop themselves. You're doing it. You're the bad guy. But I'm ignoring it because it's making for a better video. Who cares? After this, the enemies you normally fight, they don't run towards you to ambush you, they are running away. They can feel Noelle's power and start running away before you can ambush them and freeze them, but we can catch them before they get away because we're strong! From this point onwards, Noelle's behaviors during the fights change too. Her animation when we start an encounter before getting the freeze ring shows her scared and surprised. After the freeze ring, she barely moves. She isn't scared. She doesn't show as much emotion as she used to before. She's used to the whole process now. She knows what's gonna happen. She's your weapon now, and she knows when she's going to be used, and she's accepted the role. It's horrible. When she ends the fight, instead of normally looking relieved that she doesn't have to do it anymore, her animation shows her being surrounded by a city. It looks more so like a snow globe, right? Like, it looks like a snow globe. Inside that snow globe, she looks like she's in a trance. Like I said, she's done with what she's normally used for. So she goes back into this state where she doesn't do much until she gets called back again into that state. Hey, freeze these people for me. Noelle, you gotta do something. Noelle, can you do some for me? This is when the game starts to work more like Undertale's genocide route, where you have to kill a certain amount of enemies before you progress further. And here we have to do it so we get access to the best ring in the game, the Thorn Ring. It gives us access to the namesake of this route, the Snowgrave spell. Also, the damage output is like really high. Wow! We get this ring after freezing a specific amount of enemies that's chosen by this trash bin. From its speech, we know it's being inhabited by Spamton, the more iconic character of Deltarune Chapter 2, who is famous for sounding like a 2000s internet ad. This is going to become more prominent later. Spamton becomes more prominent in the route you'll see from the footage and from what I have to say at the end. While looking for more enemies, we come across 2 more mouse puzzles. And these mouse puzzles, well, you have to do them. Well, you're not really doing them, you're getting Noelle to do them for you. For the second one, Noelle asks us what to do when we enter it. Instead of doing it, we just tell her to proceed. She tells you the path is blocked, there's nowhere she can go. If she moves further, she's at risk of getting killed, damn it. This is when Noelle starts justifying Chris's behavior. She thinks that it's fine if they're acting like this. It's ultimately better for her, actually. She's getting stronger, which the game mentions every time when you kill more enemies. Noelle gets stronger, Noelle's getting stronger. Stronger. Getting stronger is a big point in this whole route. And like I wanted to compare, abused partners in relationships start justifying the abuse as a sort of coping mechanism, I think. I did some research, but I don't know if coping mechanism is the right word. But they get themselves to believe that this behavior is good for them because they're getting something good out of it. This good is in quotes because I don't really think getting used to murdering others because your partner says so is a good thing. Come on, that's a bit bad. Like I said, in here, the route says this good thing in the route is getting stronger. Noelle's like, really, I'm getting power. I'm becoming a bigger, like, I'm strong, man, come on. But you're having that at the expense of being controlled by someone who evidently is like destroying you, actually. You just don't see it. You don't see it, woman! And she sees it sooner or later. At the next puzzle, after encountering a few more enemies, we don't even interact with it. Noelle immediately goes for it. She says, I'm gonna do it, Chris. Even though what she's doing isn't even necessarily like doing the puzzles. She's freezing all of them so that they, like, turn off and you can just keep going. You're not even actually doing the puzzles. She's freezing them. All she knows how to do is freeze. She's the Frostmancer. She freezes the enemies. That's also a secret thing you get if you keep freezing enough enemies in this route. It's just amazing. Now, old people might call that a wife who knows her duties. I call it traumatic behavior. During this sequence, we get access to her mind, her thoughts in regards to all of this. And I'm going to read it out loud for you. Isn't it a good thing? I'm solving things by myself. Taking new things for myself, defeating enemies by myself, and every time I do it, I'm getting stronger. What did I do when we got that ring? When I solved that puzzle? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I can't remember. It doesn't matter if the battles are blurring together. If Chris tells me to do it, I can do things I could never do before. Isn't it a good thing? I'm getting stronger. As long as I just do what they say, as long as I... This monologue is, to me, the darkest part of the whole route for me. The justifying gets even stronger, and she starts telling herself how it's good she's becoming stronger, and that without Chris it couldn't have happened. It's good that we are with Chris and doing whatever they tell us to do. For her now, it doesn't matter what she did to become stronger or what she's going through, this emotional abuse. All she has to do is listen to the person controlling her. Even if that person actually has bad intentions, she can't even really see it at this point. She's been blinded by power. This is where I think that stark symbolism of an abusive relationship, specifically the type where one person is in absolute control over the other, starts to become more prominent and reveals itself as the underlying narrative of this route. And now there's only one more scene where I want to focus, and after that this video is essentially done. But I still have to talk about some other stuff too in regards to change in character and whatnot. And also another thing I wanted to note, I didn't write this in the script, but when I said, like, again, this was just me rambling, but I said Noelle is becoming blinded by power, that's why she doesn't see that she's being abused. I didn't mean that in regards to real people. Real people are different. Real people are not fictional and people. What? Real people don't go through fictional stories, and this is a fictional story. Toby Fox does an incredible job, but right now there's like a kind of two-sided thing where she is being abused, but she doesn't see it because she thinks Chris is trying to be nice. Like this sort of tough love. You gotta go through tough stuff to become the tough stuff, which isn't true. That's not gonna happen really in terms of the storyline. And even in abuse, like relationship abuse, people who are being abused don't get blinded necessarily by power or this is gonna happen good to me if I stay for this long. Most people are kind of aware, or some people aren't aware because of a coping mechanism that their brain does, where they suppress their emotions because they don't want to continuously think about all the negatives of it. So they just forget the negatives to think only about the positives, and then believe that what they're in is actually a good thing. That's I wanted to say that as an extra because I didn't write it in the script, and then I said it. Then I thought it sounds like I'm saying people in real life get blinded by power when they're being abused, which is wrong. I was just entirely wrong about that, and I'm not even apologizing. I'm just saying that what I said sounded stupid. I'm just saying. Now after massacring just every enemy and then getting the Thorn Ring, we go back to where we stopped and turn back to go further, and we meet Berdly. Berdly is his usual self, but quickly realizes that Noelle isn't acting right. She tells Chris that it's another enemy. Should I freeze it? She doesn't recognize her own friend, Berdly, because she's been, again, like I said, right now, she's been so corrupted with the idea of power under Chris that she doesn't see anyone else besides her and Chris as a different person, but just an obstacle in the way. I'm going to get rid of it. And the obstacle needs to be frozen like usual. She snaps out of it when she realizes that it's Berdly, but she doesn't do anything else. She doesn't stop Chris from starting another encounter because she knows she can't stop him at this point. But she warns Berdly to be careful. That's the only thing that she can do to save her friend. At this point, Berdly is the main hero of this route. He wants to save his friend because he can feel something is wrong. He drops the whole stereotypical "I'm better than you, I'm the nerd." He throws away that character that he has, and instead actively tries to fight for Noelle to get out of Chris's control, because he always attacks Chris. And yeah, I'm just gonna talk about this fight right now. He drops the act, right, of being the nerd, the "I love video games, mobile games suck" nerd, the well, yeah, I speak like the nerd emoji, like that guy. That's what Berdly is. But then he drops it entirely because he knows there's something bad. This makes me think that in the main route, the Berdly is like kind of half aware. He just teases these guys because he doesn't actually mean anything that bad, and just acts like that because he has the power to. But now it's worse, because now Berdly realizes, oh shit, this doesn't look like my normal friends. This is just goddamn awful. I'm not going to stand for this. Chris, you're gonna get the ass whooping of your life. Ass whooping. However, us, which is like Chris now, being the bad partner, we decide to use our strongest spell on Berdly, Snowgrave. The thing, guys, the thing. I said the thing. Noelle doesn't perform the spell, saying that she doesn't know how to do it. We tell her again, perform the Snowgrave spell. She tells it to us again with a much more disgruntled look on her face. She doesn't know what we are talking about. Snowgrave. Finally, Noelle decides to fight back against you and says it again with a more powerful stance. I don't know what you're talking about. It's obvious that she no longer wants to listen to you, as this time her words aren't spoken with fear, they're spoken more so with anger towards Chris. All of the pain that she felt during this ordeal has now transformed into hatred for this person. And then when we tell her to cast Snowgrave again, she does it, defiantly, telling us, watch what happens when I cast a spell that I don't know. She rises into the sky, her pupils white, and she casts Snowgrave on Berdly, trapping him in a coffin of ice. When she falls to the ground with exhaustion, all she wants to do now is to go home. She walks off the screen and the fight ends. The main focus of Snowgrave is now over. So she says, watch when I cast a spell I don't know. So this could be interpreted in two ways. She's lying to Chris, saying, I don't know the spell, I can't do it, I'm not gonna do it, because she knows how powerful it is. Or she doesn't actually know what Snowgrave is, and she's like, I don't know, what are you talking about? And in that act of defiance, and that act of saying, see, look what happens when I cast something I don't know, it's all of her power just being abrasively, is abrasively the right word, haphazardly onto Berdly, because she doesn't know the actual spell, so she's just casting whatever she can get out of her hands, because she doesn't actually know the spell Chris is talking about. She's just like, she doesn't know. So I feel that is a sort of representation of all the anger and the hate and all this and that, actually physically manifesting, and then she leaves. But the bad thing being, her friend has been destroyed. To me, this part of the route represents a final end of this relationship, where Noelle finally realizes that she doesn't need Chris. She defiantly performs something she doesn't know to prove a point to them, with the unfortunate result that she confirms the final breaths of her friend. In some relationships where the abused finally gets the chance to leave the abuser, it can be messy, it can be scary, it can be terrifying, you might lose friends. But at the end, you finally leave the grasp of the person who owns you. They don't own you anymore, you're free. However, this bittersweet ending doesn't happen as easily in real life. Some people never get the chance to escape from their abuser. Some people might never get the chance to see their abuser realize their ways and change. And that's the sad part. Noelle saying she wants to go home reminds me of some people who move back to their family home after leaving their abuser, going back to a household which will treat them with the love they deserve. Love without a darker overarching motive. You get what I mean at this point. Now it's at this point where I would like to end the video, but I do want to talk about a few things that happen when we don't have Noelle with us in the ending of the game. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I just want to note it down, things I found interesting in regards to the context of how I viewed this ending. and I might ramble again without a script because it's like fun. When we get to the point where we normally have a cutscene where Noelle goes on a date with Susie, we don't see this cutscene at all, and instead we have Susie saying, nothing happened, nothing happened. She comforted Noelle by telling her everything was a dream. Presumably she wasn't doing too well, and Susie did what she could. We are not gonna know what happened in there. But also, like, Susie says, I'm gonna tell you later, Chris. She doesn't tell Ralsei, which I think is, I don't know. We also don't do the two queen fights as normal. She talks about how Noelle has awoken too much and that she needs to rest, probably because she's too tired from producing ice. We fight Spamton Neo! Ayo! I'm not gonna get deeper into this fight. It's also pretty goddamn painful, as it just goes further into in-game lore about the meta and stuff like that, which I have not. I've like blatantly ignored it. You know that I'm not gonna be talking about this thing. Spamton Neo also refers to Noelle as Hoochie Mama, which is funny, I must say. And I looked it up on Google, and I don't know if I mistyped it, but Hoochie Mama means a grown woman who displays an abundance of sex appeal and who is entertaining and fun to be around. That is, I don't, what? Does that actually, is that actually trying to add like the sexual, is it actually trying to talk about like a sexual thread in that story? I don't know if there was any, but it's Spamton, okay? I don't know if Spamton is like genuinely like being like this. Like, do you think he is Mr. Editor guy? Will you tell me? He also refers to her as side chick. This was probably on purpose to reinforce what I've been like talking about this whole time. And when we get to the end of that boss fight, we start calling on our friends for help. Susie doesn't help. No response. Ralsei doesn't help. No response. But when we call on Noelle, who is too far away to even hear us, we hear another freeze. And Spamton is nowhere to be seen. Maybe she still isn't out of Chris's control yet. I personally thought it was like a sort of cutscene to represent a trauma response, where she still responds to Chris's commands to avoid anything bad happening to her, because she's so used to it happening and she just got out of that. It's still like in her brain, Chris command, do thing. Like, ugh. The biggest difference here is when we meet Noelle's dad in the hospital. There, Noelle recognizes us first instead of normally recognizing Susie, her damn lesbian crush, man. You recognize the guy first. And in this scene, she doesn't allow her dad to play the game she's playing for her, which is new behavior, according to him. Normally, she gives the controller to the dad, and I'm remembering this out of memory, okay? I could be wrong. She gives the controller to her dad, but she's like, okay, I'll let you play, but just like she's still kind of hesitant about it because she doesn't want to let go of control. The character growth that happens in this ending and the main ending is the same thing. Noelle starts to control her own life. She doesn't like become anyone's slave, and she doesn't like allow herself to be controlled by others. She's like, no, in the main route you're not gonna do bad things with my friends. In this route, it's goddamn worse. It's worse. The only character growth here being she leaves Chris and says, you're not gonna control me anymore. But it's a negative side of that character growth. The main route is the positive character growth, and that's the negative side. It's the same like characteristic, but done in different ways. You know what I mean. I'm doing this without a script. I'm not refilming this video. I'm 48 minutes into recording. I'm not doing this again. Now, if you did wear Noelle's watch in the Dark World, because it adds more defense if you use it as an item and you swapped stuff around, because like I did that as well, you get one last cutscene, the final one. I'm just gonna let it play out for you. Nothing else.
Susie, mind if I have a word with you? Oh? Ah, crap. What? The dad knows? Bro, come on, it was just a bad dream. Even so, it was so real. I can't get it out of my mind. Bro, you killed Berdly. I'm so sorry. The voice telling me what to do. A voice unlike Chris's. A terrifying voice. Hey, that's rude. Chris, recently there's been something different about him. Why hasn't anyone else noticed it? Because you're the chosen one, Noelle. I'm sorry. I have to figure it out. Why Chris is acting so strange. Why they keep coming to the hospital. Dude, are you serious? Wait! Bro, it's actually me! I thought like Chris is saying like, yo, proceed and stuff, but Chris is not even there. So it's literally the player telling Noelle. I mean, it's to see you, Noelle. I'm sorry, but I think that's probably the way that it's gonna go. Huh? Chris? Oh no, how long have you been standing there? It is Chris? No, is it Chris? Oh, you really scared me, you know? Keep it together, Noelle. Maybe she's outside of the hospital? Nothing to be afraid of. After all, dream is just a dream, right? Chris? Oh, bro, no!
Now, this cutscene goes deeper into the actual lore, where we learn that this voice that she's hearing isn't really Chris's voice, but the player's. It's the player's voice that's terrifying. There's the reason all this has happened, but if we ignore it again, because I want my theory to be real, and all of you guys, if all of you disagree, you're wrong. After this, there isn't any different change, and there's nothing much I want to go into. I just wanted to appreciate this route because I think it's done amazingly well. It's chilling and really disturbing when you think about those factors on their own and its implications. And I'll say this again, I'm not saying my interpretation is correct. It's obviously wrong. I'm ignoring a big main theme of the story. But I wanted to talk about the symbolism of this route, which, becomes more obvious when you ignore the whole meta story of Chris isn't being themselves. Chris is being controlled, and I wanted to ignore that entirely because I don't know, man. I had this thought in a shower one day, and I'm like, doesn't it seem weird that it reminds me of a goddamn bad relationship? And yeah, I wanted to just talk about it. It's amazing. Thank you for watching, and see ya! Make sure you don't actually take this as a tutorial on how to be a bad boyfriend. Take it as an anti-tutorial. Do the exact opposite of Chris. You'll be great. Okay, bye.
Say word.
Oh shit.
Word.
Oh
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh shit. Oh. That out. Oh. Whoa, what the fuck? Homie. Homie.